Sharp Game here, coming at you with another episode from ChooseYourRelationships.com, off of Love Can't Wait, which can be found on Amazon.com. And today I'm going to talk about why you should stop listening to what a lot of these women are saying. Why it can be dangerous taking or believing what women say. You know, a lot of women, when you first meet the average woman in the beginning, they do a lot of talking. A lot of them, start rambling and ranting, talking about what they wouldn't do, and they don't do this, and they don't do that, and all that bullshit. You've heard it all if you've been on the dating scene for a while. And some of that shit you should take with a grain of salt, man. Because I've met women at this point in my life. I think I've met women from every continent around the world. I can honestly say that. And a lot of stuff that a lot of women say, even in America, they'll say, well, I would never do this. I don't do things like that. And the reason why a lot of women say that in America is because they don't want to be judged. Every woman wants to put their best foot forward first. And they don't want to be judged, and they don't want some women want you to like them because they might be interested in you, but you might not know it. But, they want to put their best foot forward first, and they want to seem like they're the nice, innocent young woman. And then sometimes it depends on the environment and the situation that they might be in as well. So, but if you go overseas, in some countries, they take the shit to the next level. If you go to Japan, they don't really, they want to keep the harmony. They'll do anything to keep that. So they'll let you walk in a house burning fire without telling you anything that might offended her or the people around her, and you might not ever know it. So you might have done something wrong in Japan, but being that within her culture, they're afraid to express themselves because they feel like, they want to keep harmony and they don't want to make a scene. And so to avoid any of that, they just won't bring it up at all. But the only problem with that way of thinking is if the person doesn't know that you're doing something offensive, there's a good chance they're going to keep doing the same thing over and over until someone tells them, whether it's you or someone else. So what happens in most cases in Japan is they'll just cut the person off, stop talking to them, and move on. And that guy, he'll never know the reason why. This is a common thing in Japan. In America, if a girl cuts you off, there's a good chance you will know the reason why, the reason behind it. But in these other countries, no, not so much. And even a lot of women that come over to America, they pretty much practice the same way of thinking unless they live in a big city. When I say big city, I'm talking New York, Chicago, Atlanta, Miami, LA, Houston, Dallas. And they'll take on, and if they start hanging around people in those towns, they'll take on some of those habits, some of those ideas of their friends or the coworkers that they're spending the majority of their time around. But a lot of stuff these women say, it's just not, it just doesn't turn out to be true in most cases. How many times have you met a woman and she says something like, well, reason why I'm single is because the quality of guys is just not here in this town. These guys just aren't dateable. And what that means is that the guys that she's meeting just don't want her. She's just not, they can do better than her. That's why they don't want her. That's all it is. But she's not going to say that, is she? She's going to justify why she's single. This type of thing happens a lot. And I used to fall for a lot of these little tricks or little lies that a lot of women used to tell me when I was in my 20s. And even when I was in Japan, but in Japan, I learned that they up the ante on it in Japan. And because if you go to these people from other cultures, they tend to go about things in a different way. But the end result is usually the same. Either they're gonna spend a lot more time around you, or they're gonna leave you alone. Well, so people in other countries tend to be more clever. And then another thing, when you go to these other countries, a lot of those tricks, a lot of those lot of scams and a lot of that double talk that a lot of people do in America, that shit don't work in these other countries because there's no status quo pro. People in other countries tend not to care. Some of them don't even know. They don't know what's going on in America. They don't know how people socialize in America. In other countries, people usually say what's on their mind. Unless you go to some place like Japan. But outside of Japan, I don't know too many countries where people don't say what's on their mind. I mean, if people don't like you, they're going to pretty much come out and tell you. But in America, you got to read between the lines when it comes to a lot of these women. If they say something like, I like this type of guy. I like a guy with a nice personality. I like a guy with a good job. I like a guy with all these. If they have like a check-off list of everything on the list, 9 times out of 10, the guy she wants doesn't want her. Those qualities of the guys that she wants, those guys don't want somebody like her. And this is a common thing too, because see, I always tell women, if they ask me what type of girl do I want, simple answer: I want the girls that want me. I fuck with those who fuck with me. But it happens to be the girls that I'm attracted to. Because I believe that you get what you are, not what you want. You know what I'm saying? So you have a lot of women out here, they have what I call an identity crisis. They don't know who they are. They think they're somebody that they're not. And they're trying to get, and they want to be around people or get the attention of men that don't want to be with them. You know what I'm saying? It's like I know this 43-year-old Japanese girl. Well, she's 44 now. 44-year-old Japanese girl. She got a decent paying job. She work in a local office where I live at. Her ideal guy is gonna be a corporate guy. A guy that work in some office building like, I don't know, Bank of America or Wells Fargo or U.S. Bank, something like that, right? And so I asked her, how old does the guy have to be? She said, well, I guess like 32, 35, something like that. I said a 32-year-old guy, 35-year-old guy is not looking for a 44-year-old woman. I'm sorry. I hate to break it to you. It's not going to happen. I mean, what guy, I mean, you're going to have to bring a hell of a lot to the table, and you're going to have to go above and beyond the Call of Duty to get a 32, 35-year-old guy to fuck with a 44-year-old woman that's not even average looking to be a Japanese woman. He might hit it, but he ain't gonna, for him to stick around you long term, I don't know. I just don't see it. You know, I mean, he doesn't have any kids. I would think he would probably want at least one. You know, so are you in a position to have a kid at 44 years of age? I don't know. You know, some people will say, well, Janet Jackson did it a couple of weeks ago. Oh, that's Janet Jackson. You can't be Janet Jackson. You know? Now, if you had a lot of those, if you had a lot to bring to the table like Janet Jackson, okay, now we can talk. But you're not Janet Jackson. And this is why I'm talking about. A lot of women have an identity crisis. You know, they want stuff that they see, but at the same time, they really don't have a practical way of going about doing it. You know what I'm saying? So you gotta take what they say with a grain of salt until proven otherwise. And in most cases, they're not going to be able to prove and back up anything they're saying. Everything is purely emotional. It's not based on anything that's been proven by them, or anything done by them, or anything accomplished by them. It's all based on what they've heard from their friends, family, or what they've seen on television. You know, so this is why it's in your best interest not to believe in very much anything these women say in the beginning until proven otherwise. And a lot of times, buying into a lot of the bullshit that they talk about, it can be very dangerous for you as a man, because nobody's ever gonna care about you as much as you. And a lot of these women are all over the goddamn place. Their life is out of order. They've stretched themselves so damn thin, and a lot of them are really playing a dangerous game without even being aware of it. And a lot of them don't have compassion, and they don't really care about people. You know what I'm saying? Especially coming from a place like Japan. There's no compassion there. People don't really have empathy for people. They can't really feel where a person's coming from. So it's in your best interest to take what most women say with a grain of salt until proven otherwise. Otherwise, you might find yourself in a very difficult and dangerous position to be in, like a few guys that I've met in the past. So if you like what you heard, subscribe to my channel, check out my blog, chooseyourrelationships.com. Until next time, Sharp Game is out. Peace.